Welcome to the Oak Creek Fire Protection District Pension Board meeting and Board of Directors. We're going to get started with our customary Pledge of Allegiance. Firefighter DeVady, would you be willing to lead us? Of course, Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So we'll have a roll call of board members and trustees. I don't need a roll call. I see that everybody is here. Thank you both. As everyone has had a chance to look at the agenda, are there any additions or deletions that we need to make to the Pension Board of Trustees regular meeting? None? None? Looking for acknowledgement from everybody? None? None? One last one, Director Newby. No. Okay, perfect. No additions or deletions for the approval of the agenda. And then let's look at the January 23 meeting minutes. Any additions, deletions, or corrections needed for the January 2023 Trustee Pension Board meeting? Additions, deletions, or corrections for the minutes from the 2023 meeting minute? Last time, any corrections?
No.
Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes from last month. Motion from January. Motion from Director Newby, second by Director Woods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? That motion carries. All right. We had no old business. The only old business that we had is the perpetual Pam Feely presentation. And I spoke with her again just this week, but she's in Windsor presenting to their board. So I will work diligently to try to get here for the July meeting so that we can have a presentation to go deeper and for us to have a better understanding of how the pension board is looking. And again, just to reemphasize, we have no concerns in terms of how the pension looks for our firefighters, and that was confirmed through the 2021 actuarial evaluation report that Ms. Feely presented. That is the only old business. Is there any other old business from the board? None? We'll move into new business. And Firefighter DeVady, you had mentioned that you would like to make mention of some of the issues, or some of, not issues, but some of the items in relation to the allocation report.
Just the contributions. The department contributed $15,000 to the pension, and the state, with their matching funds, $11,240. So.
And we like when the state matches, so that is important for us. That shows the total remittance of being $26,200, and that is awesome, or a very appropriate addition to our allocations for the pension.
$26,240.
Extra quarter.
Yep.
Anything else? And Barb, you probably have the greatest insight amongst all of us in relation to this. Was there anything else glaring that we needed to address in terms of the fourth quarter 2022 allocation report?
The only thing I'm just going to reiterate is that, last year was not great as far as any kind of gains on the market. So we do show negative as far as money coming out of the pension fund. But like I said, that's just the way 2022 we didn't have any profits for that. So then the other thing that I spoke about, and I know we questioned this before, was some of the expenses that are coming out of the fund from the FPPA. So I'd like to have a meeting with them and go over those expenses so I can kind of extrapolate what that all encompasses, instead of just having other expenses. So we have a better understanding of what they're charging us for.
That's important, I believe. And if you would, avail the board and the trustees the opportunity to participate in the meeting. I think it would assist all of us, anybody that could, if you're willing, and it would allow all of us to have a better insight of what the FPPA is doing.
Right, okay.
Any other questions in relation to the allocation report? Any other comments? Okay, that moves us into any other business that needs to be brought before the Pension Board of Trustees regular meeting. Any other issues? I'm sorry, yes, sir.
So I have a set of bylaws for the pension board. It's quite old. I don't know if they've ever been updated. Maybe this is 10
Wait,
years.
you found them on the website?
No. I've had these since I was on the pension board.
Oh,
Have
what's
the
the
bylaws
date?
been updated recently?
We're working on that, yes.
What's the date on that? Oh, it doesn't have a
2012, maybe,
2012?
perhaps?
Yeah, we have been updating them.
They are updated?
They're,
It
yes.
used to be this was our election night. We electing our representative tonight?
No, there's no
There's no election?
election for the Pension Board trustees that we have in the agenda. And I don't believe that we had anybody express interest in running, other than these two gentlemen here. There's some chairs right up here on the front. But
I think that's in violation of the law to not have a pension board election for a representative.
for the firefighters, for the trustees on the board?
Yeah.
And so I guess we could look into it and see if we overlooked it, but it's not on our agenda tonight, and that was not part of anything that we had planned for. So if so, we'll have to make
It's part of the
corrections.
responsibility of the pension board.
And if there was a mistake, we'll have to acknowledge that mistake and then have an election in our July Pension Board trustee meeting. But we will do our due diligence and the research of that with the bylaws, but
And so the annual report is available somewhere to people that are within the pension? We have an annual report?
the allocation report that we
An
just
annual
referenced.
report on the pension, so we have every year we get a report of the amount of money that's in the pension, allocations, amount of people that are in it. It's the actuarial report is
Yeah, and
supposedly available.
If you and I are talking the same thing, that was year ending December 31st, 2022, the allocation report that was provided to us by the FPPA.
Is it provided to the people that are on the pension?
I'm sure that those that are a part of it, I'm making an assumption there, but those that are a part of the FPPA have the ability to access their own accounts
Where would that be?
with the FPPA.
Okay.
And you can log into an FPPA. The FPPA has a login available, and I'm almost will guarantee that each person who is a part of the pension has an opportunity to see what their allocations are.
Okay, I'd like to know what that is, because I haven't seen any report from the pension board in at least 10 years.
All right. And have you tried to log into the website, or was that a part of when you were?
No.
Okay. Do you guys have any knowledge of that? I'll tell you what, and I'll make sure that we have not only addressed the issues surrounding the election that perhaps we missed, and then also how those that are unaware of how to determine what their proceeds are from the pension have the ability to research that. And we'll make sure, and we'll add that to the minutes so that we can address that as old business in the July meeting.
All right, appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that catch and that. So, yes, I'm sorry, Bob.
And then, so, both of the pension board members just started last year. So if it's a 2-year term, they wouldn't term until next year.
That would be a good point. But this
It's
is.
one every year is what the rules are.
Mhm.
So they serve 2 years, but so we vote, or we had in the very distant past voted for one each year. But if people don't know that they can run for the pension board, then why, you're not gonna get anybody.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point, and that is something that we will take to heart. So, is it possible for us to pull up the pension board bylaws? Or do we
Well,
have
I
time?
can do the research, and then what I can do is present it to you.
Okay.
Like you said, we can cover that.
In the July meeting?
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
we do get emails, updates. I'll get with you after.
What was that?
They do send emails out
Okay.
on the FPPA.
So I thought but we'll have the information to be able to address those questions, both of those questions. And thank you for bringing those forward. Any other items or business to be brought before the pension board? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion, second?
Oh, second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you both very much for attending again, and thank you for the insight. All right, so the pension board meeting ends at 6:11, and that will move us into the Elk Creek Fire Protection Board of Directors meeting, starting at the same time. So as we call to go, we'll bypass the Pledge of Allegiance since we just accomplished it. The roll call of members, all board members are here. Is there any additions, deletions to the agenda for this evening? Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Third time, additions or deletions? The agenda has been approved. Next, if you would review the February 2023 regular meeting minutes. Is there a need for any deletions, corrections on the February 2023 regular meeting minutes? Corrections, deletions to the regular meeting minutes from February. March, excuse me, from March. Last time, any corrections for the regular meeting minutes from March of 2023? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to approve the March 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the March
Director Woods?
2023 meeting minutes.
A second by Ms. Melissa. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Okay, that leads us into the next issue and our next matter, and that's our financial report by Treasurer Woods.
Okey-dokey. I'm just gonna walk over there. You don't have to. You wanna see? Oh, jeez, sorry. Okay, so these are the March financials. Today's April 13th. We'll just go on the next slide. That's just an introductory kind of slide. So, year-to-date total revenue is still tracking according to the budget. So we're looking at $1,616,965 versus a forecast of $1,528,399. Total amount budgeted for revenue is the $5,387,881. So it's literally tracking as it did last year, because that's how the forecast was established, is taking last year's number and extrapolating off of the current budget. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Next slide. Expense, pretty much the same. We're at year-to-date, $1 million, this is total expense, keep that in mind, $1,187,742 budget versus $1,146,775 actuals. So again, we are slightly below the year-to-date number. Some major contributors to this would be training, maintenance, prevention, fire stations all came in a little bit under budget. We did have a large capital expenditure for a chipper truck of about approximately $111,000. Half of that will be matched by the state as a grant. So therefore, that grant will be booked into grant revenue. Just keep that in mind. They're booked two different places. It's called generally accepted accounting principles. There were other expenses for March. There was about $6,700 for 1/3 of our portion of the invoice from Turncor for the work they are doing on the citizen education for consolidation. So our portion of that was about $6,700. March also includes a cost of living increase for firefighters, so that's in our actual number. Again, it's budgeted and it actually happened. How about that? March expenses also include one-time incentive payments for volunteers. So once a year, we actually disperse money to volunteers based on the hours that they worked in 2021. The volunteer hours that they worked. Pardon me? 2022. Duh. 2022. Sorry, we're in 2023. I keep forgetting that. Gosh. Okay, next slide. This is what net income looks like. March is generally our first month of positive net earnings, and that's because of the bump that we get in personal property tax, mill levy payments to us. So again, this gives you an idea of what we're looking at in 2023. That's in blue. 2022 is what income looks like in 2022, the green line, and our forecast, I can't really break out $7,271 by month, so that's our annual forecast for net income. Next slide, please. Okay, I put this in here just for kind of grins, because one of the things that when we forecast for coming year, I have to forecast by month in order to get the annual. So what this shows is the monthly forecast and what it looks like. So you see a big blip in property tax revenue in the month of March. That's because people's property taxes are due in February or in June, depending on if they split it or not. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of an idea of what our forecast kind of looks like. It goes up and down. Because normally we only talk year to date, but I thought you might get a kick out of seeing what monthly looks like. Forecasting revenue, let me tell you, is a challenge. It is a challenge. Next slide. This is what the annual one looks like. So you can see that we're going up, and that's because of the payments that are received in March for the February property taxes. And what you can see is towards the end of the year, it levels off considerably. And that's really just how our revenue goes. We get pretty good increases through July because of property tax payments, and then it levels off for the rest of the year. Next slide. I haven't memorized what I'm going to say, so I have to look. So, for those of you that haven't been in previous meetings, we actually bill Intercanyon Fire District for labor charges for 3 departments. Fuel service, bill Intercanyon 100% of those monies. Prevention services 50% and maintenance 50%. So I have 3 slides for labor. One is labor, just total labor adjusted for the amounts that we bill to Intercanyon. And then there'll be following slides talking about different kinds of labor. So we're starting the year with, again, labor is running slightly under budget. Keep in mind that March includes the cost of living increases for the firefighters. So we forecasted accordingly for those increases. So we're pretty much on track with labor. we're at like 25% through the year, and labor's at about 25%. Couple things, that's it for this next slide. So this next slide, if everyone doesn't know what SURF expenses are, that is out of state, not necessarily out of state, it is out of district charges to labor that when we send people to fires that are not in our district. And that happens, generally speaking, during fire season, so May-ish through October. It was a little bit longer last year, but that's generally what we see. So this is labor without those SURF expenses, because those are kind of considered separately. So total labor budget for the year was the $2,321,983. We are at, for this month, year to date, we're at $580,992 against a budget of $617,130. So again, you see it's slightly under budget. Next slide. So these are SURF wages. What you'll see is there's very little, and maybe not even anything, the first 3 months of the year. In fact, in 2023, there were no SURF expenses for labor in 2023. And so what you see is a big ramp up, and the ramp up is because what you enter is fire season, and then it levels off towards the end of the year. These are part of the monies that we get reimbursed for from the state when we submit the invoices for the out-of-district fires. Scott, correct me if I say anything weird. Okay, next slide. So this slide starts to take shape when we get further into the year, because it gets pretty cluttered, but I have different colors on the lines, so that helps. So $1,271,439 is what we billed the state last year for our out-of-district expenses. We did get reimbursed for that, but again, that's last year. We don't have any SURF expenses yet for this year that we've booked, so therefore, that's the only thing on the slide. What you're gonna see when we get into like May, June, somewhere around in there, that you will start to see SURF expenses, you'll see the amount submitted to the state, and you'll see the amount paid by the state. So we just kind of, just kind of keep track of it. This year, the actual revenue forecast for SURF is $925,000, and the expense is, I don't have it on the top of my head, less than $925,000. Next slide. Any questions?
$1,083,284.
Thank you. Any questions?
That's more than 925.
No, 925 is the amount of reimbursement that we would expect to get from the state.
Right. Budget for expenses for SURF is $1,083,284.
That's not this year's budget, I don't think. I'm not sure what you're looking at, Mike.
I'm looking at the year end for 2022.
That would be year in 2022, then this is 2023. The only thing on here for 2022, you want to back up a slide, Scott? The thing that's on here for 2022 is the amount of reimbursement for last year.
Right. Okay.
So $1,271,439. We've not invoiced, we've not been on out-of-district fires yet, so we haven't invoiced the state for anything, so there's nothing else on this graph except last year's number.
Been to two that I've seen on Facebook.
Yeah, Director Woods, we've responded. In fact, just the other day, we sent a Type 6 team down to, help me out.
Rampart Range.
Rampart, yeah.
Okay, so there's a little difference between when they actually go and when they actually hits the books. So I have got nothing in the accounting books for those expenses at this point. And we haven't billed anything to the state because the state would bill retroactively to when the expenses occur, and the expenses don't necessarily hit the accounting books at the same time the fire occurs.
It's all accrual based.
The expenses are, for the most part, accrual based, but not everything. For example, capital expenditures, which in a generally accepted accounting, you would see amortized. In our books, when we spend that money, it shows up as an expense, the $111,000 that we paid for the additional chipper truck. But then when we file accounting papers at the end of the year, that's backed out and we show an amortization. So what you're looking at are the operational books. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of. Can I help anymore?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm happy to, if I can. Next slide then. Skip that slide.
Were there any other questions though for Director Woods?
I haven't seen any hands raised, so
Okay.
I don't know if there are. Don't you be raising your hand back there, Paul? Okay. So, the expenses for the month of March that are in the packet, $384,552.28. This amount in your packet. March 2023 actual expenses adjusted by billings to Canadian, $369,693.79. So what I need is a motion to approve the $384,552.28.
Director
in the
Woods?
ledger. Sir?
Yes. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay. So I need approval for the expenses booked for the month, which are $384,552.28. And then I need an approval also for the adjusted expenses of $369,693.79. So somebody would make a motion to approve those.
Director Woods is asking for a motion, and you can read the motion as written above.
I would move we approve the expenses of ending March 31, 2023 of $384,552.28 and the billing adjusted expenses of $369,693.79.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second? And all in favor?
Aye. Thank you all for your time.
I didn't see anybody that didn't vote, so that motion passed. Thank you for that, again, very informative report. All right, as we move from financial matters, do we have Chief Ware loaded up? And I did not acknowledge this at the beginning of the meeting, but Chief Ware is working to get another accreditation, and he is at a training class, but do we have him? I didn't hear him. All right. Oh, hello, Chief. All right, stand by one, Chief.
You might
Stand
be
by.
muted.
He's muted, or we're muting him?
Try again, Chief.
Okay.
You just get to look at it.
Chief Anderson, your computer's volume is muted on the bottom right.
Oh, I hear something.
Oh, here's something.
Try that, Chief.
All right, how's that sound? Excellent, good to go?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, I apologize about being out of town. Yeah, so the month of March, while calls were slow, we did end up doing a number of upgrades and improvements over the month. Probably the biggest thing is the new SCBAs have all arrived and are being placed in service. Firefighters are currently being fit tested and issued new face pieces to replace our aging units. The new ones were replaced packs that were from 2008. Recommended end of life for the old ones is 10 years, so I believe we got our money's worth out of them. It's a significant upgrade that will in firefighter safety and efficiency. The units were half of them were purchased through a grant and the other half we purchased. And we got the grant in 2022. The new chip truck has arrived. It will be in service for the summer. And the seasonal firefighters are starting on May 1st, and chipping is scheduled to start in the middle to the end of May. Fire season has also started. I know somebody pointed that out earlier. We ended up going to the 403 fire in Forest in Colorado. This is Park County. And then we also had Elk Creek Resources, the Hogback Fire for mutual aid with West Metro, and to the Forest Service for the Rampart Fire down on Rampart Range in Woodland Park. All our firefighters are finishing up wildland pressure training, and everything should be done by May. The big thing that we did a couple days ago is we received a $110,000 grant for a SID table. It's a GIS-based training tool that will help train for all hazard response, and it's also something that we can use for community outreach. It's a pretty cool piece of technology. We've looked at them in the past. We've been turned down for a handful of grants in the past, and this year, due to the efforts of Captain Yellen and his collaboration with the county, they were able to get that. That grant was from Denver UASI. And the table is slated to deliver in January of 2024. Operations, volunteer firefighters have 175 hours of staffing. We average 3.5 members per call. Again, 10% of the calls overlapped. We had 8 calls, and the average response time was 8:02. The reason for the lower than the quicker than average response time for this month was we were back to having winter again, and so we ended up with a number of MVAs on Highway 285. There was nothing really remarkable in the calls. No fires. Everything else was about normal. Running down, we had 683 training hours for the month. That's pretty exciting. We had our RT 130. A lot of firefighters got in on that. That's refreshing for wildland fire. Also, the academy was going through their wildland classes, and we also ended up hosting an L280 scholarship to leadership classes, an NWC, that's a wildland class. The class had 30 students from the U.S. Forest Service, Intercanyon, Evergreen Fire, and Elk Creek, and the instructors were from West Metro, the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control, and Elk Creek. I did want to point out the hard work by Jason Papentus in the Wildland Division. They put a ton of work into this class, and successful class. We got quite a bit of good feedback, and we're hoping to continue that in the future with more classes with instructors as well as students from out of our agencies. Fire prevention, big news. The Deputy Fire Marshal has been filled with Rachel Rush. She comes to us from Evergreen Fire. Looking forward to that. She's going to start on Monday. And Fire Marshal Parker completed 55 inspections for the month of March. Fleet facilities, we finally completed the minor remodel at Station 4. We had the bathroom in the office completed. We also had the contractor replace the cedar shake siding and repainted the doors. The goal is something that Director Newby pointed out a while ago, is to kind of rebuild some of the stations and remodel and try and have some remote work areas. So that's what we're trying to do. We're the next is Station 3 to have that cleaned up and updated a little bit. After several setbacks, and we're going to deliver the product. The Wildland Modules new service body is set for delivery in the next week or two. And the chip truck is delivered and will be well under budget. And it should be set up to start when the guys start shipping in the month of May.
Any questions for Chief Ware? Any questions? And I know Director Woods appreciates the chip truck coming in well under budget.
Good job.
All of us do.
I put well.
Okay.
That was due to fleet manager Adam Pojonowski. He is fairly diligent in looking for deals. He ended up sourcing it out of Southern California.
All right, anything else, Chief?
No.
Well, that leads us into, and I'm just going to call you Wojo because I'm going to mess it up, but it is Adam Wojowski.
Adam Pojonowski.
Pojonowski. And welcome. And this will be the first report that you've been able to give since you have been hired with Elk Creek. And if you would just give everyone a brief little introduction about yourself first, what your responsibilities are with Elk Creek and Intercanyon, and then please enlighten us with the things that you've been able to accomplish since you've come on board.
Will do. My name is Adam Pojonowski. I'm the fleet manager and mechanic here at Elk Creek and Intercanyon. I came to Elk Creek from Evergreen, where I was at for 12 years as their lead mechanic. So I know these trucks very well. I've been working on them for the better part of 10 years. I'm ASE Master Certified Mechanic. Before my job with Evergreen, I was a Ford Senior Master's Mechanic. So got quite an extensive background in mechanicking. Since coming on at Elk Creek, I've implemented a maintenance software program, which is allowing us to track, repair requests, expenses, things like that. It was a bit of a challenge to find one that was user-friendly for the type of program that we have, as well as cost expense, because a lot of these maintenance programs are very expensive, and the one that I finally settled on after quite a bit of looking is very, very reasonable. And I actually found out here within this last week that Evergreen is going to start using that same program, so it's kind of a good thing to know that other people have took notice of this program as well. Yeah, that was the big thing. Getting the fleet maintenance program up and going, is kind of daunting. Preventive maintenance, repairs, all that stuff on both our vehicles, our apparatus and trucks and stuff, as well as Intercanyon's, is all my responsibility at this time. So it's a very full job.
Could you elaborate on the relationship with Intercanyon and with Elk Creek and how your role transcends one department?
So it's really, I'm the fleet manager for both and the mechanic for both. So we've got them, they're set up on the same software as well. So they can put in a ticket, and it separates it out between Intercanyon and Elk Creek. So we've got 4 stations, they've got 5, and the apparatus are listed by the station as well as the apparatus number. So if they have something that comes in that they've got a flat tire, I go there and do that. It's not necessarily Elk Creek is first. It's whatever is what is the most priority at the time. So we run more calls than they do. So by that design, our stuff needs more attention than theirs does. So it's kind of a hit and go. There will be weeks where I'm strictly working on Elk Creek stuff, and there's weeks where I'm only working on Intercanyon stuff. But if there's an immediate need, it doesn't matter whose vehicle I'm working on, I'm going to that immediate need and then getting back to it with the other projects that I have going. Like Chief Ware had mentioned the chip truck. I'm tasked with sourcing these vehicles when they're requiring replacement or addition or whatever. So that chip truck was $111,000 and some change. The budget was $150,000. We could have gotten one in Colorado, but it would have been more at the $150,000, $160,000 mark. The expense to bring it in out of California was minuscule compared to the savings that we had off of sourcing it from there. A little bit on that chip truck. Us adding that chip truck takes away the single point of failure for our chipping program that we currently had, because we were operating off of a 20-year-old chip truck that we bought used from, I'm not sure who. I just got to see it when it showed up at Evergreen for me to look at it when they first bought it over here. So now with having 2 chip trucks, if one of them goes down, we have another one. So that program can continue to run, without a hiccup. So that's a big benefit for everyone's sake.
And that shipping program involves not only Elk Creek, but also Intercanyon. So those within our community are benefited by not only the grant funding that chip truck, and I'm on a soapbox here, but by the grant funding that chip truck availed, and by the opportunities that we're going to have in the mitigation efforts of our constituents, of those in the community. So that's an important piece for people to recognize.
Yeah, and we do have 2 chippers as well. So like I said, the single point of failure would have been that chip truck. If it went down for any given reason, a flat tire. It's not like you pull the spare out of the trunk and you throw it on that truck. There's a little bit involved to swap a tire out, and hopefully it's somewhere accessible and not, up one of the windy roads where we're trying to figure out how to get it down to a place where I could work on it. So it's really, it's really a good thing to have that second truck. So it'll be a huge benefit.
All right.
I did have a little speech prepared if
Oh, yes,
you guys
please.
would like to hear it. All right. So I'll hit that real quick. My name's Adam Pojonowski. I'm the fleet manager mechanic here at Elk Creek. My position is a shared position between Elk Creek and Intercanyon. I've been here for just over a year and it has been nothing less than amazing. The fact that I get to come into work every day knowing that I have a chief who not only supports me in my decision, but also respects myself and everyone else who works with him is so awesome. I wanted to share just a little bit about our fleet tonight with all of you. We operate 3 ambulances, 5 engines, 4 tenders, and approximately 30 other pieces of equipment, everything from staff vehicles to chippers and chip trucks. I've been taking care of this fleet for approximately 10 years between working here and my previous job working at Evergreen Fire. Our equipment is aging, and while right now it is still in relatively good condition, the last couple of years have shown that obtaining parts is becoming increasingly difficult. The extended downtime we have had as of late for trucks has been mainly tied to sourcing of parts and their availability. As we evaluate our apparatus and replacement, we need to consider the advancements in technology that have happened in the last 20 and 25 years. Yes, Big Bird and the Smeel engines are 25 and 19 years old respectively. We now have things like anti-lock braking, traction control, rollover protection, brighter lighting, and brighter lighting that help to protect everyone. We've recently, in my tenure, added 2 staff vehicles, hybrid escapes. The fuel economy on the hybrid escapes are approximately 36 miles per gallon. Those replaced vehicles that were getting 10 to 12 miles per gallon. So the savings is pretty obvious there. This year has taught me that while I have no doubt in my abilities to repair these vehicles, there are just some things that are out of my control, i.e. the sourcing of the parts. I look forward to working with the chief, staff, and the board to identify and prioritize apparatus replacement in the future. I hope to be able to continue to utilize things like grants, for instance the one we received as a 50-50 match to purchase the new chipper truck, which enabled us to offer a more resilient public chipping program. Purchasing this truck has enabled us to eliminate the one failure point which could have taken down the entire program. I've really enjoyed working here for the past year and look forward to a long career here at Elk Creek. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Adam. Does anybody have any questions for Adam?
No, but I want to add something if I can. The chipping program for the community is extremely important. I don't know if anybody in here has taken advantage of it, but I have twice now, and it's amazing. You just pile the stuff up and it goes away. So, well, it does. Well, okay, you have to pile it up though. So this year, the chipping program closed within 45 minutes of being open.
The sign-up program.
The sign-up program. So we are scheduled to do 410 addresses this year. So that's a significant number of piles of slash to be picked up and shipped by the group that needs the chipping truck. So I just want to give a little plug for Adam, because he's also given me advice on electric cars, because I'm looking at buying an electric car. So he's just a fountain of information. I appreciate him.
So the engine that got burned up on that fire in Wombly, that's back in service now?
Yes, it is, and that was, I'd have to look, it was 8 or 9 months, and it was parts.
What was the, what number engine was that I'd be familiar with?
It was 432.
It was the red Smeel engine.
32?
Old 32. From what
I gotta be honest, they've changed, but when they go to the different stations, they change. So right now it's 434. So it was.
What does it say on the top?
I can't honestly say that I looked up there to see what that was. But that was kind of a unique thing, because the longest, from what we kept getting told by the Diversified who fixed that truck, the windshields were what took the longest to get. They couldn't get windshields for it, and they had to be specially made, if I remember what they said correctly. So that's just one of those areas where, you know, there's not windshields for fire trucks sitting on the shelf for something that's that vintage.
And what was the cost of repairing that?
I don't remember. It's,
Approximately.
I've got it somewhere. I don't honestly remember. The insurance covered that, so, and it got upgraded lighting. Some of the lighting was able to be upgraded on it, but not all of it, because of course you've got to look at what you can, you know, what's cost effective to upgrade on that truck, you know, for what its life might, you know, potentially be.
And then Adam, we were just speaking, we have an opening for someone to assist you, correct?
Yes, we do.
And would you like to, it might be good for the committee to help you with that?
We're currently looking for a helper for myself, you know, that I can train. You know, it's going to be an entry-level position here at Elk Creek for a mechanic. I would call it mechanic/helper. You know, ideally somebody that has, you know, worked on vehicles in a professional environment or has professional schooling to, you know, work on vehicles. Doesn't necessarily have to be fire trucks, heavy duty, you know, diesels. I mean, I came from a Ford dealership, and I'll be honest, when I went through my school, it was through a program called the Ford Asset Program. I went to work at Lincoln Mercury dealerships because I never wanted to work on trucks. And now I work on the biggest trucks that are out there, so it's kind of weird, you know, you don't always, you know, when you're a younger person or, you know, just getting into a field, you don't always know what you want to, where you're going to end up, so. And that job is posted on our website, so.
Are we getting applications?
We've gotten a few. So we actually, we spoke with a candidate today, who is, yeah, looks to be, you know, a potential, so. But it's still open, so.
So if you know anybody, please send them our way. Adam, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the explanation of what you do, and thank you for what you do.
You bet, thank you.
All right. Right, so that leads us out of our operations report into old business. I don't remember any old business that we were bringing forth. Chuck,
Well, we had the strategy meeting. the
oh, that's
strategic
great. Would
plan
you like
meeting.
to?
Well, why don't you're in charge of it. and,
Okay,
so-
no problem. And actually, the strategy session took place on
27th.
the 27th. And everybody participated except for Director Wagner, who had suffered a loss, and our condolences again. That was it's super sad. But we were able to work towards a process so that we can incorporate a strategy for us in the future. And we had implemented processes that would allow for us to be able to move forward with or without consolidation, with or without mill levy influence, and how this district could be best run in an efficient and a cost-effective manner. The meeting took about, was it 2.5 hours, 2 hours? And there was a very good conversation. Kelly Troke, who is a professional in terms of being able to manage these types of planning sessions, organized our thoughts, organized our issues, gave us the opportunity to be heard so that our concerns could be added to and a factor in the direction of how this fine fire department will work in the future. I think that's kind of a good encompassing of what we did. Did you want to add
No,
anything to that?
I think that's good.
Just that, I believe that we decided that we would be coming back to the board June 8th or so with kind of a point of direction.
Yeah. And I believe that.
So I think, as I recall, and we don't have any minutes on the meeting yet.
We will.
Hint, hint.
Yeah.
I think we had set a goal to have a plan in our June meeting?
Yeah, that's
June
exactly.
8th, that's
yeah,
what I-
June 8th?
said.
Yeah, okay. So,
So stand by, we can start to incorporate some of those notes that we had, because there was a great deal that Melissa had written down. And then we'll
Absolutely.
be able to have that ready to present not only to the board, but to the public in terms of how we are planning strategically to move forward. So thank you for that. And so that, any other old business? Okay, that takes us to new business. The first item under new business is the impacts of the SMBP operations on district EMS. And
that's me.
that is Director Newby.
So, so I'm introducing a motion here, but let me just read it so everybody is on a common basis here. The title of the motion is a motion to develop means and identify and mitigate the EMS impacts due to the Shadow Mountain Bike Park. The background is that Jefferson County Planning and Zoning has accepted an application for a special use permit. The case number is 23-102980RZ. It's not actually a rezoning, it's actually a special use permit, so the case number is a little bit misleading. And this is to allow the construction of a chairlift-served free ride downhill bike park operated as a Class 3 recreation facility on 306 acres of a parcel owned by the state of Colorado, with no provision for payment of mill levies, impact fees, or other compensatory revenues to the Elk Creek Fire Protection District. And the case is currently in its first referral. And just parenthetically, a first referral is where the applicant puts out his plan, her plan, to the various agencies, some inside the county, some outside agencies, for comment. Some of those comments are coming in now, but the first referral is still open. While the SMBP, or the Shadow Mountain Bike Park, is expected to generate patron traffic comprising an average of between 300 and 700 riders per day, 60 to 140 spectators per day, and 15 to 35 pets per day during its March through November season. The district is mandated by law to provide fire protection, emergency medical, and rescue services to its human guests while visiting the park. Now, studies indicate...
Director Newby, if I would.
Yes.
I need to hold up right there. As we get into the study suite, that becomes more of a discussion portion of the motion that you intend to make. The studies would support the motion being made. The information that you provided in terms of the background gives us context onto what the issue is that you are about to make a motion.
Right.
But the study portion goes into a discussion portion of why you are making the motion.
A discussion portion, so what you mean is you want to come back to this?
No,
when
what I
the
mean
motion
is...
gets a second?
Yes, because once the motion has a second, then we go into discussion on the motion, which gives clarity as to the purpose and the intent of what the motion is trying to create.
So tell me why you think that's the case.
Because the study gives data and information that would support the need for the motion to pass, or the intent of that motion to impact.
Well, I think it's just data. It's just information, it's background information.
Which would be great during the discussion portion, once the motion is second.
If we have a discussion portion, and that's only if and only if the motion has a second.
That's correct.
So I want to present this data because I think it's important.
But
Will you
that
give me leave to do that?
That circumvents the parliamentary process.
I don't think so. I disagree. I don't see how.
So the way that Robert's Rules works when you make a motion, I'm sure most of you know, if you don't, Robert's Rules allows decorum and a process for motions that are made in a public forum like this. And it gives us an opportunity. And as you mentioned, when a motion is read, when you make your motion, when any one of us makes our motion, that motion is out for everybody to have an understanding of where we are going. The second gives an indication of why that motion, or the support of that motion to have further discussion. That further discussion would then have the intent, the desire, the need, the process, those things that you are about to indicate here in the study. So although you did read the background, that's still even outside of the way that the process works when you make a motion.
Well, I don't see that, and Robert's rules are very flexible. So the intent here is to convey information to the board and to the community, and I beg your leave to be allowed to do that. And so this is still background information, and studies indicate that at a minimum, operations at the bike park will create 5 injuries requiring medical attention for every 1,000 hours of downhill mountain biking activity. And as a result, the district will be required to provide emergency medical service at incident frequencies that are well beyond its current capabilities. So that's important information for the board to know, and important information for the public to know. Now, to the motion. So I make a motion that the Elk Creek Fire Protection Board of Directors, number 1, direct the assessment of the personnel, apparatus, equipment, and incident time demands that SMBP operations would impose on the district due to EMS demands, its EMS demands. Number 2, develop the legal, financial, and regulatory mechanisms that will require SMBP to offset the EMS demands that its operations will impose on the district, thereby ensuring that district taxpayers are held harmless. And number 3, that we notify SMBP, Jefferson County, and the state of Colorado of the intent of the district to hold its taxpayers harmless with respect to the EMS demands resulting from SMBP operations. In the motion.
We have a motion by Director Newby. Is there a second?
I'll second it, just as purpose of having a conversation.
And the motion has been seconded. And now we will go into discussion on that motion. Director Newby, would you like, as the maker of the motion, would you like to continue further?
Yes.
And as a maker, I'm assuming you're speaking for the motion.
I'm speaking to the motion and for the motion, in favor of the motion, obviously. So, from the perspective of this particular development, it's very clear that activities, operations at the park will generate lots of injuries. There are lots of studies that show what the injury rate is. Some of them are older. There are a lot that are newer, but they are out there. And as we know, studies always lag the actual occurrence because it takes time to do the studies, to get them published, and so forth. But the point being is that at an estimated 5 injuries per 1,000 hours, with their projected patronage patterns of, at a minimum, 300 patrons per day, that would be 2,100 patrons per week. And if each patron spent an hour on the mountain, that would be 10 injuries per week. Now, those are injuries requiring medical attention. So what does medical attention mean? It means a trip to the ER. And with our current overlapping ambulance call rate of 30%, that would mean a lot of calls would go unanswered because we would have all of our ambulances transporting injured bikers to ERs down the mountain, because we have no EMS facilities here. And there will not be any EMS facilities provided on site. So the burden falls to us. The bike park does not pay any taxes to us. Mill levies don't apply to them because they're on state land. Therefore, Elk Creek taxpayers will take the burden. So that is something that we must do something about. Now, the mechanisms that we use to hold the taxpayer harmless, I think are open for discussion. And that is the purpose of the motion, to number one, find out what the impacts are. Number two, explore mechanisms for, again, holding the taxpayers harmless. And then number three, negotiating those agreements with the county, with the state, with the operator, or whatever it takes, or maybe even all of the above.
Anything else for Kennedy? All right. Any other discussion on the motion?
Let me just say, I will oppose the motion, partly because I think that your assumptions about the studies aren't warranted for this particular development at this particular time, using the information that you're using. Now, I think we can go make an assessment of that at some point, and I'm okay with that, but to put the language out here and raise this concern that there are going to be so many calls and operations is just suspect to the validity of making the motion. So, you know, I would have preferred we'd stopped, not tried to include the study. It seems ingenuine to indicate that this is about this specific part, and that the research that you're using, the 3 articles that you've cited at other instances, they're all old, 2020, 2002, 2012, 2017, and they're about different places, different parks, different place aspects, and not current enough to indicate what we're doing in this particular park. I mean, we have 4 essential bike parks in this district already, because everybody is out riding their mountain bikes in Myers Ranch, and Flying J, and Stoughton. We don't have a huge, overwhelming response of injuries from any of those places. I mean, just because we're adding a chairlift. So, I mean, I'm okay with sort of looking at and thinking about how to assess this, but I also think that we could just move forward with trying to implement some areas, perhaps a service agreement of some kind. We can certainly explore working with the state about finding fees that may be built into their lease with the bike park and various other things. I mean, we don't know necessarily the mechanisms, but I have real questions about how we would assess the personnel that's needed, the actual calls, what the impact overall is. And then the other piece that I really am unsettled with is how do we hold harmless the taxpayers of Elk Creek Fire Protection District? We're going to serve that bike park. I mean, what is it? How are you going to set up a mechanism to hold the taxpayers harmless? And so we can explore those things, and I would say that's the motion. Let's develop a legal, financial, and regulatory mechanism that requires the bike park to come to some kind of agreement with Elk Creek Fire Protection to offset and mitigate. But I don't think we could ever hold taxpayers harmless from all the expenses. And that just puts us in a really weird position as far as a board to say that that's the promise we're making to the citizens. So that's more comment than anything, but I would make a friendly amendment that we move to just the motion being to develop a legal, financial, and regulatory mechanism. Not only requires the bike park, but every other development in this district, because we know we're always going to have to offset impacts of any kind of development in this district at this point. So,
Any oth-
go ahead.
I'm
Nope.
sorry.
I'm done.
Any other discussion on the motion?
I'm going to agree with Ken, and I will.
Are you speaking
oppose-
for or against the motion?
I'm speaking against the motion I am opposing. The motion, the top of my list is, there is no bike park. There is no bike park. It's in the first referral. Could go to a second referral, a third referral, fourth referral, before it ever gets before the planning commission. And then there will be people testifying at the planning commission, and from the planning commission, a recommendation will go to the Board of County Commissioners, and then the Board of County Commissioners will make the decision. And at that time, you have the potential of a bike park being developed. But right now, this is cart before the horse. There is no bike park. We don't know, we can't be omniscient. We do not know that the Planning Commission is going to recommend approval. We do not know that then, if they're recommending approval, the Board of County Commissioners approves. So that's tops on my list. There is no bike park. So negotiating with an entity that doesn't exist is not possible. My second issue is the articles that were sent to us that Chuck researched. They were all about downhill racing. This park is a recreational park. It is not a downhill racing park. And whether Chuck approves or disapproves of the park on a personal basis doesn't make any difference in the decisions this board makes. This board makes decisions for the district, not for whether or not we agree or disagree with whether this bike park should move forward. And I'm done.
Any other discussion on the motion?
So I'm speaking against. I would agree with what Director Woods is saying. To me, I really struggle with, we don't know what the final format of this bike park could potentially look like. We don't necessarily know how it's going to be approved. If it's approved, we don't really have any information. It's very early in the state of this happening. When Staunton State Park was being talked about, there was a lot of concern, and while there has been some impact, it has not been to the great magnitude that people were concerned on the beginning of the discussion about it. I don't feel like this is something that we need to take a stance on, and it feels very much like when we've been talking about impact fees and service agreements on other developments, and I don't think that this is in a stage that we need to really weigh in right now.
Director Neely, any further comments?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is that the studies that I cited were actually, the Whistler study is actually very similar in its demographics and uses that are contemplated at Shadow Mountain Bike Park. And to the point that we don't have a bike park in front of us, I think we need to be proactive. I think this proposal is emblematic of the sort of large-scale developments that we will see. I think there is a high likelihood that the bike park could be approved. I think that's with recent large-scale developments going through the county land use planning processes. I think it's best for us to be cautious. So I think a modest expenditure of time and effort to actually confront the issue that's before us, because I think it is very real, I think is something that we should do. And I'm certainly open to different mechanisms, but I am firm that we actually do the assessment first before we start putting together legal structures, or even considering doing that. So I think we need to have the data, and then we contemplate how to how to make sure that the taxpayers don't bear the burden.
All right, so I'm a bit confused because in that last statement, I hear you almost retracting your motion?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all, not at all.
And I also heard an offer of a friendly amendment. Are you willing to entertain a friendly amendment?
Sure.
Director Wagner, did you have a friendly amendment that you wanted to pose? And actually, it's not a friendly amendment, this is an amendment to the motion.
Well, I guess what I originally would say is that I would make a motion or would amend the motion to include only that we develop legal, financial, and regulatory mechanisms that will require the bike park to offset the EMS demands. It is the operation will impose on the district, thereby ensuring the district taxpayers. Well, I'd have to change that to say that we mitigate expenses, impacts to the district's budget.
We have a amendment to the motion. Is there a second on the amendment? Is there a second on the amendment? Last time. Is there a second on the amendment? The amendment to the motion fails. That takes us back to the original motion. There's been discussion on the motion. In fact, is there any further discussion on the motion before I call it? Hearing none. All in, Chuck, if you would, I'll read it. There's a motion made by Director Newby, seconded by Director Wagner, that the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors directs the assessment of the personnel, apparatus, equipment, and incident time demands that SMBP operations will impose on the district due to the EMS demands. Number 2, develop the legal, financial, and regulatory mechanisms that will require SMBP to offset the EMS demands that its operations will impose on the district, hereby ensuring that the district taxpayers are held harmless. And number 3, notify SMBP, Jefferson County, and the state of Colorado of the intent by the district to hold its taxpayers harmless with respect to the EMS demands resulting from SMBP operations. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye?
No,
And there is no room for abstentions. That motion fails. All right, the next item of new business is a pre-consolidation IGA. A little context to that. We, for the last 2.5 years, have been working on the possibility of the consolidation of Elk Creek, North Fork, and the Intercanyon Fire Department. That is...
That's not on my agenda. It's not on posted agenda.
It is.
Here it is.
It was...
The posted agenda on the website.
Yeah, the
As of-
agenda on the website, if you looked previous to today, that had to be replaced because there were adjustments made today. So I updated
I looked
the new
today,
one.
and this is the one I got today.
Okay.
It's not on there.
It must have been before I put the new one up.
Okay. So we have a pre-consolidation IGA that will initiate the process of the consolidation moving forward. Now, there's a lot that has taken place to this point. Probably most of the people here have participated in this study. Prior to the survey, participated in a survey. Prior to that, there was a study that gave us the direction to be able to understand that we have needs and desires within this community to increase the services of our fire protection. This board has approved the process of moving forward and has teamed up with Intercanyon, with North Fork, in terms of a consolidation committee that has been working to create a process and a timeline for things to move forward to the point that we get to the successful election results of a consolidation and the implementation of the new fire department after that point. And what we have before us and what has been provided in terms of the pre-consolidation IGA is a desire in terms of timing to put that process into place that allows for all 3 fire boards to be able to have an understanding of what needs to be done at what time as we move forward to the election. And again, should that election be successful for the consolidation to continue, then it implements some timing and some issues surrounding how that is going to take place immediately after that. As an example, there are 15 separate directors on 3 different boards that are somehow going to have to come together should the election show that the consolidation will move forward, and then start to manage that process from that point forward. There had to be an understanding, there had to be timing, there had to be a process logistically in place for us to understand how that is going to work. So we've been working with the timing of those processes and with the ideas of how that the pre and post consolidation will come together. The second item, again, was really the timing of how these should fall together, because, as an example, the Inter Canyon Fire Protection District had a vote on this last night. And from that point forward, there has to be a specific amount of time for the next steps to take place. Our evaluation and the board's determination of moving forward with the pre-consolidation IGA ensures that all of these districts are on the same page of how we are going to move forward. And it just gives substance and validity to how we want to ensure that we are all working together. And I think, Director Woods, did you have anything else that I might be missing in terms of that?
I just want to emphasize one thing, and that is the board does not approve the consolidation. The voters approve the consolidation. We have nothing to do with whether or not the voters approve the consolidation. What we're trying to put together is contingency plans that if that does go on November ballot, which is the intent for voter approval, that we have the mechanisms in place to successfully bring together 3 districts into 1 district on January 1st of 2024.
And to that point, this IGA is a working document, because if we are to run into any type of issues, we have the ability as a committee to be able to adjust and maneuver to ensure that we are, again, working ahead of time, as was mentioned a little bit ago, having some pre-thought and some pre-planning and how this should move forward. So that is the intent of the IGA in terms of the pre-consolidation intergovernmental agreement.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
The board did make an approval to move forward with exploring consolidation. And what this is a step forward in moving forward with the consolidation, moving forward with the voters to decide whether or not they want the districts to consolidate. So I'm going to mention that we have those meetings coming up. Can I do that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Please.
So on the website, mountainfireresources.com, it's a secure website, and
It's on our website.
It's on our website, and it's on, the actual website is mountainfireresources.com, and you can actually look at when the meetings are taking place. We are having, one second, Mike. I thought you raised your hand. I'm sorry. I thought you raised your hand?
I will have a question.
You always have questions. So we're moving forward with the public meetings to help the citizens of all 3 districts understand what consolidation means for the district. So the first meeting at Elk Creek Station 1 is April 18th, correct? It's a Tuesday. And it goes from 6 to 8 p.m. You can come and actually learn about what consolidation means to the Elk Creek district and what it means to the other two districts. So I would encourage all of you that are here, because this is an amazing turnout today, I would encourage all of you here to attend one or more of those meetings.
I would like to ask a question. I'm just curious why you guys solicited and invested in a legal document for a transition to occur before the board election and before the November election, so that you're already making a plan to combine boards before anybody's voted on it, including the fact that you're 1 month before, less than a month before a board election.
Well, again, these are contingency plans. The IGA could be changed in June because there's a different board up here, because people that are here aren't on the board in June. That's a very real possibility, because you're right, there's an election on May 2nd. But these are plans that were put together over the last at least year or so that I've been involved, and before that, the chiefs were involved. So we're not making, these are not set in stone. In other words, this is a living document. This is
But
a
it's a
document.
lot of
that can change.
resources to start that transition before you have a commitment from the taxpayer.
How about this? How about we make the motion in a second and we get into discussion on the motion, all right? So could I entertain one of my fellow board members to make a motion that the Elk Creek Fire Protection District support and endorse the Pre-Consolidation IGA?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So typically, discussion on the motion is a part of the board itself. But I think in light of your question that we could try to answer that. But I had a question in terms of when you say the resources that have been dedicated, could you clarify what you're a little bit more about?
How much did that legal document cost?
I truthfully, I don't know right off the top of my head, but
What was the process?
This was a budgeted, the cost that was incorporated for this development of this document had been budgeted prior to, it was last year's budget, correct?
It was.
It's still not based on taxpayers' awareness or decision to vote for or against consolidation. So the board made a decision to develop a legal document that would be living and changing. However, the living document is to start the process to unify the departments prior to a vote being put before the public. Is that a correct assessment of what you're attempting to vote on?
Answer that.
Yeah, certainly.
This document is just an agreement between the three districts that we will produce information that in case the voters do approve the consolidation, that information is already together. It's not a document saying that we are going to consolidate. It's a document that says, in the meantime, the districts are going to communicate with each other information about inventory, information about real property, information about personnel, information
Doesn't
about
that
any
seem like a dedication of money and resources and
It
time
is
to
in
share
our-
that information prior to the election?
It is in our budget. We are pursuing the possibility of consolidation.
What is that budget dollar amount?
There's a budget dollar amount for consolidation of $125,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any
It's all
other
in our
discussion
financial
amongst-
statements, just
from
so
the
you know.
board? Any other discussion on the motion from the board?
Yes, I have discussion. I have some points to make. My first point is, the first time I saw this IGA was yesterday afternoon about 5:30. I picked up your email, it had the document attached, I had another meeting that I was running towards, and I was,
So are
Reading
you
this
speaking
IGA
for or against the motion?
oh, this is against the motion,
Okay.
of course. So my point being that I have had very little time to even read the IGA. I'm not an attorney, so me reading a document is very fraught. I would rather be in a meeting where I have an attorney explain to me the intent of the document, and then explain to me how the document works to ensure that the intent is carried out. So I object to the motion simply because there was not enough notice given to me personally, no notice given to the public that this business was coming before the board. So that's number one. Number two is that since proper notice was not given, we are, as a board, are opening ourselves up to a lawsuit to nullify whatever we do here tonight regarding this motion. And based on Colorado law, we have to give 48 hours notice to the public on all business that comes before the board. And we have not done that here, and this is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal what we're about to vote on here tonight. So I would recommend to the board that at the very minimum, we defer this vote until such time as all of us, not just you and Ms. Woods, have had this IGA explain to us what the intent is and how it's intended to work, and we can be, if we have objections, we can be heard.
Anything else?
That's it.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Just want to be in favor of the motion, first off.
Are you speaking in?
I'm speaking in favor of the motion to adopt this IGA. The ultimate decision, this is just a contingency document, is something to guide us towards putting on the ballot in November a decision that the community will make, that the voters will make about consolidation. So they're getting a lot more than 48 hours in advance that is going to be on the ballot. And I just see this document as a guideline for the big 3 districts to work together towards that ballot measure.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah, so when was this thing produced? I have not seen this. Was there like a
It's
secret
living
meeting or
document.
something?
It's going through revisions and updates frequently.
So where is it, where can I read it? Is it on the website?
Do we have it on the website at all?
It wouldn't have been on the website had it
Okay.
been.
Well, we haven't voted
Yeah.
on it yet, so it wouldn't
I
be
mean,
on the
it would
website.
go onto the
So-
website.
So can you read it to us?
Several pages.
It's, how many pages? It's 8 pages.
Could you project
You
it?
can't
Can we
read
make
8
a copy
pages?
Sure.
of it? Can we make a copy of it?
Yeah, we can
Director
project it on
Benson.
this. We can
Project
direct it on the
screen.
screen.
Let's put it on the screen.
This guy's working on it.
So in the meantime, I'll speak to the motion in favor of it, because I think it puts in place many of the questions that citizens have as far as, you know, what are our resources between all the fire departments, what are our liabilities, what are the expenses of each of the departments. I mean, all of that is required to be provided and open for us to be able to share that information, and that seems to be one of the biggest concerns people have is, you know, what is the way we're putting together these resources? this agreement doesn't move us really anywhere towards consolidation. It just provides additional information. And it seems like a really, a fair step, although I.
So once again, when was this produced? Was there a secret meeting or something that you produced this at? I don't know. I have not even
Rephrase
heard
the
about
question,
it.
I didn't hear all of it.
When was this document produced?
It's been in the works for.
When is the first reiteration of this document? What's the first date it was ever produced? I've never even heard of it.
You haven't heard of the consolidation?
I have not heard of this document that you're voting on tonight, setting in stone, so to speak, some kind of document that there's concern about.
I don't.
So you know,
have
it
the
says
date
not
from
set
me
in
when it was-
stone, but you're setting it in stone
You have it?
tonight if you're gonna vote on
March
it.
20th?
And I'm assuming there's 4-1 in this board, right? 4-1? So you four knew about it,
Take a
and
vote.
one guy didn't know about it this whole time?
We don't have roll call votes. It was a majority that voted in favor of that. And I think it was March 29th, Director
March
Woods is
28th.
telling me when the latest,
The first.
the first iteration was finally put together. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, again, I'm not an attorney either. I guess I would caution you to be a little more transparent about this process, because from day one, I've sat through a few of these meetings where you discuss the consolidation, and you promised at that time that you would always be transparent to the citizens of this county, and that's not happening right now. We should have known about this before yesterday, or today. And I'm not done yet. This just looks bad. I hope that this document is being processed and is for good intentions, but it certainly looks like you're trying to sneak something through to me. The other question I have is Director Woods, when you were giving your financial report, you mentioned an expense for the citizen education for consolidation. What is that? Am I being educated as a citizen?
We have 6 meetings planned. They're on the mountainfireresources.com website, which I'm assuming we could bring up if we needed to. These are meetings to provide information to the public, anybody who attends the meetings, about the proposal to move forward with the consolidation. It's based on studies that were done by TurnCorp, which we voted on in January, February, something like that, and passed a motion to continue the direction of helping people understand the consolidation and to move forward with consolidation.
Okay, so as a taxpayer, and I believe that I'm part of a huge community that pays your salaries.
I don't get a salary.
Well, I would
I'm a volunteer.
highly suggest that if you're going to do a program that educates your citizens, you make them very aware of it. And when these meetings are, and what the context is going to be, because I'm going to vote for or against consolidation when the time comes, but right now I know nothing on how that's going to work.
This is why we have the meetings planned. Does anybody have a website?
So when are you going to post that? When am I going to be able to
It's
find
on
out?
the
There were flyers.
website.
Didn't we mail
There was a
postcards to every
postcard mailed to
resident in the
every
district?
resident in the
Yes.
county.
We did.
If you didn't get it, I apologize, but there was a postcard. I got it myself, being a resident of Elk Creek Fire District. I got a postcard that said when the meetings were going to be and where they were going to be. So we tried very hard to inform
Maybe we should
everybody.
try a little harder.
Well, we can't control the post office delivering those
Nobody
postcards. Agreed.
Maybe there's other ways. I mean, post it to your website, have updates.
The meetings are also on the website,
Website.
and they are on social media as well.
But again, it looks like there's funny business going on. I don't appreciate that. I'm just letting you know.
Thank
So
you for your
convince me
concern.
otherwise.
Thank you for concern.
Okay, and you had your hand up as well.
Yes.
Last week, I attended at West Jeff Middle School an opportunity to meet the candidates that were running for the Elk Creek Fire District, the Board of Directors. And you mentioned, the consolidation, I would be given opportunities to hear go to different sessions, to hear meetings about the consolidation process. But if you could please clarify for me why this IG, interagency governmental agreement was not mentioned last week. We were discussing consolidation, so I have some concerns and confusion about how none of this was mentioned at that meeting last week.
That was actually a forum for the candidates to talk. Okay, so
We were talking about consolidation.
one of the things we talked about was consolidation, but at that time, this agreement had not been signed. It was just in the process of being developed. So it would be hard to talk about it when it wasn't formalized. I don't know if that answers your question.
So you have to sign it before we can read it? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
We have to.
I've never heard that before.
So we have one more questions. We did mention consolidation.
Yes.
And I believe we did mention that there were meetings coming up. Those meetings are on the website.
And that part I'm not debating.
Okay.
I'm wondering, as a community member, this document has some serious, it's a serious potential because you're using it as you move forward. And I'm wondering why that wouldn't be mentioned when we're talking about consolidation last week. I don't understand, like in one half you're talking about how you've been planning and talking for a year and a half. There's a board member that doesn't even know about this document as late as last night. That's where I'm confused. Kind of like, there's a piece missing there.
Do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, so you guys have mentioned that you've done all this research and trying to educate the community in regards to this consolidation. You guys are bringing before a document that's been recently produced, and this one's been around for a little while. And it's pretty thick. Has this been passed out to the community?
It's on the website.
It's on the website,
It is,
so everybody...
yes, it is.
And it's been advertised for the community to look at?
Here's the resource.
This is a resource, this is the study
Well,
that
how
you
would you,
did?
how would you suggest that we send
I
out
don't know, you did
a
a
note?
postcard for the
We did a postcard
consolidation
for the
stuff.
meetings coming up,
So
yes,
then
we
maybe we
did.
do a postcard, I don't know, I mean,
I
let's
don't
same.
know either, because if you put something on the website, it's
During
there.
board meetings, that's available
Perfect.
on the website, yeah.
So then the
And where
other,
is the link? Can you
It's-
go to the link on the website for this report?
It's available on both our website and the Mountain Resource Centers.
Which is listed on the mailers, which has been advertised here at our board meetings monthly.
and I just had one other thing.
Yes, sir.
On this document, it specifies a 16 mil that you guys are trying to ratify this evening. This report doesn't say anything about a 16
No, no.
We're not ratifying any 16 mills this evening. That's going to be, that will be on the ballot. That will be for the community,
That's not for us
the
to
citizens to vote on.
Take a look at the
We
document
do
that I
not,
read.
the board does not set mills. The board does not do that. That is a ballot measure that is put on the ballot for citizens to look at, review, and decide what they want to vote on.
So I can quote from this
Yes.
Triton report if you'd like. It's on page 193. I don't know if anybody's read this except for me and a couple other people. But, it says, before moving forward, these questions must be addressed. Who will be the political elected leaders of the new organization? How will each of the jurisdictions be represented? Will it be necessary to go for a vote of the taxpayers? Who will be the fire chief? Why is my district paying more than the other agencies? Have you addressed all those questions?
Those are being addressed. And
No,
when you said-
before moving forward, these must be addressed, is what your Triton report
Isn't that what
says
the IGA is asking?
directly.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that what the IGA is trying to do?
That's exactly.
Let's move forward.
We haven't seen the IGA.
So
This is the first time we've ever seen it. I haven't seen
you've
it
made
yet.
that point. We've got that point. But I think it's very important for everyone to understand that the IGA that we're discussing right now has to do with opening the lines of communication between the departments so that we can answer those questions
So
and
let's
start having
see
that
it.
discussion. I believe where it was up on the board.
Yeah, can you put it back up? The IG, the PG, yeah, so.
That's what it's doing, is trying to answer those questions.
Okay, so then on number
Allowing us to
4,
do that.
number 4 on that, can you go to number 4?
Scroll down to 4, please. Is the mill levy increase?
Pardon?
Is the mill levy increase?
Number 4.
Yeah, number
Yeah, go to number 4, please.
So the consolidation shall be
Right
contingent
there. Says
upon
16
each
mills.
party's voters simultaneously approving the mill levy increases to ensure, so that's on the ballot. So it has
Says 16
nothing to
mills.
do with this. It says 16 mills, but it's contingent upon approval of all the
Understood.
citizens.
But you're
Not
approving
in
a
this-
document with 16 mills on it, why does it have to have 16 mills on it?
That's what we've been talking about all along. It's been in the last few documents. It's probably not in that one, but it's
No,
been.
everything
it's
in
been
this
discussed.
document states that it's lower than that. To
Yeah,
have a
less
fully
is needed.
funded
We've talked
department.
about 16 before. I mean, it's
Just
still,
'cause?
that's contingent upon voters approving the consolidation. Everything above it, that number 4, is what we're doing currently, or where we'd be recommending that we're doing with this IGA, which is putting together the information that you're all asking for. Everything else is contingent upon approval by the voters.
Could you go back to the top? I think it said something like you're complying with Title 32.
Title 32, yes.
Yeah, so I've been mentioning every meeting I've been to in the last few months that you haven't produced a transparency notice since 2021. That's not in compliance with Title 32.
Weren't we working on that?
Transparency notices are up on our website. I have submitted all transparency notices to DOLA. They still have not approved them. I have not
And
gotten
there's, the
approval.
last one up is 2021.
On DOLA. On our
Yes.
website, it is current.
That's what Title 32 talks about, it has to be submitted.
I did, and I have approval that DOLA accepted my submission. I have not gotten the actual approval of the document.
So unless it's on
DOLA is
DOLA,
dragging
it
their
hasn't been
feet.
done since 2021.
DOLA is dragging their feet, and that there's nothing I can do about it. I have submitted the document. It's up to them to approve it.
So Neil, you've had your hand up.
Yes, I have a couple of comments that, after Director Newby called me up last night and said, well, this is going to be on the agenda today, and so I looked on the agenda, and I kept looking on the agenda, I thought, well, maybe they changed their mind or something, about 12 o'clock today, and I kept looking, and finally at 2:49, I found it on the agenda, so between about 2:30 and 2:49, it was posted, so that gives all of about 3 hours and 15 minutes of notice to the public. So that's considerably shorter than 48 hours, and that to me is unconscionable. Basically, you gave no notice to the public. And the second thing I'd like to know, I've read it over several times, and it's quite complicated. Does this pre-consolidation intergovernmental agreement expire in case the voters reject the consolidation
If the
on the ballot?
If the voters don't approve it, then the consolidation doesn't move forward.
That's not
That's not what's stated
that's
on
not
there.
what it says.
That's not
It
what
says
it
it
says.
continues on
That's correct.
after the voters reject it,
That's correct.
until it is discontinued by an action of the board. So
Amended.
this is a continue, no matter what happens in the selection, this pre-consolidation of intergovernmental agreement
Is-
will continue
That's right.
if it's rejected, 99 against and 1 for it.
Correct.
If you read it, maybe you haven't read it. And that's why we needed an attorney here from,
Correct.
your personal attorney here to go over each element of this thing. So read it. I think you'll find it and read it.
Yep.
So that's meaning it doesn't stop. It can go for 1,000 years until the board terminates it after the election.
And this has already been voted and entertained.
So
has been.
termination,
Yes, it has been.
if the court approves a consolidation, This agreement will terminate at the effective date of the court's order. In the event that the voters of one or more of the parties do not approve the consolidation or related ballot measures, this agreement shall remain in effect until such time as either party provides 30 days prior written notice of termination. So it doesn't live forever.
Read the rest of the paragraph.
If the agreement continues in the effect of the proposals of instituting a subsequent merger process, the party shall amend the agreement accordingly. So it says, if the boards continue to try to endorse or to work towards maybe another ballot measure in the following year, that this could. But if it does, if North Fork, Elk Creek, or Inter Canyon decide against it at the point that it doesn't pass, then it can change. So, Neil, I see what you're intending, but it does have a termination clause in here. It doesn't live for perpetuity.
It's not a termination clause. It's not.
Am I misinterpreting the fact that the...
Yes, Director Pixley, can I make a suggestion? And this is heartfelt. I think I will make the recommendation that we delay the actual vote and consideration. We hold a special meeting, take as much time as we need so that we understand the full context, intent, and all the mechanisms in this agreement, so that we, the board, are all on the same plane of understanding. And at the same time, then we can explain this to the public. I think it's our duty to do that, and I think we're legally bound to do that.
Any other discussion on the motion? Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, there was a motion made to approve the pre-consolidation IGA between Elk Creek, Inter Canyon, and North Fork. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Against?
No.
That motion passes.
Wow, the point of the public.
The next item on new business is the Evergreen Fire Marshall IGA. It has been provided to the board members. Are there any, may I receive a motion from a fellow board member to approve the IGA between Elk Creek Fire Protection District and the Evergreen Fire Protection District for fire prevention services?
Can I ask a question first? There's a date in there that I didn't understand.
Correct.
It says commencing July 1st, 2023, and it says that, maybe that's been changed since I read it.
It's been changed, it was
It's been changed.
2020.
It was 2020. Never mind.
Yep.
It's been changed.
Okay. So may I receive a motion for an IGA between Elk Creek Fire Protection District and Evergreen Fire Protection District for fire prevention services? This intergovernmental agreement will be entered into by both entities, both quasi-municipal corporations, organized pursuant to Title 32 CRS to provide fire protection and prevention services.
So moved.
Director Wood, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion?
Again?
Discussion.
Yes, excuse me. The discussion on the motion.
Yes, discussion. Again, I saw this agreement maybe an hour ago, or slightly before we started the meeting here. Again,
None of us
proper
have seen
notice
it at
has
all.
been given to either the board of directors or to the public. We are putting ourselves in jeopardy
Already did.
of a lawsuit. Whatever we do here tonight, one citizen can go to court, can take us to court and nullify our vote. I don't think we should risk that.
Anything further? Any other discussion on the motion?
No.
All right. Director Newby is asking to table the motion. And I would agree that if you only had an hour, I would like to table this motion and put it forth on the May meeting minutes.
May agenda.
May agenda.
On the agenda. Let me make sure I get this right. So I move that we postpone this motion until the May Elk Creek Fire Protection District meeting, so that you have more than an hour to look at it. All right. We're going to table the last item as well. That will be pushed to the next board meeting. Anything else? And then we are now at citizens' issues. Yes, Neil.
This is regards to the failed motion regarding study of the Shadow Mountain Bike Park proposal. And one important thing that needs to be considered is that in terms of it's not some hypothetical thing, it's on sort of a freight train headed towards the commissioners' planning and county commissioners, is that time is of the essence, because the time that we can make a case for negotiations for some type of financial compensation is before this agreement gets passed. And if it's passed, well, then we have lost 99% of our bargaining power. And in the various comments in the first referral from the Transportation and Engineering Department of Jefferson County, they mentioned that there's going to be 2 roundabouts, one at Barkley and 73 and one at Shadow Mountain and 73, and that they have determined that the traffic from that Shadow Mountain Bike Park will comprise 25% of the traffic that's going to be in those roundabouts. And so they have told the applicant that Jefferson County is going to expect 25% of the cost of those 2 roundabouts to be borne by the Shadow Mountain Bike Park, and those are about, with all the realignment of Turkey Creek and all the infrastructure that runs through those constrictions, and also at the junction of 73 and Shadow Mountain, there's a horizontal water supply well for the Jefferson County schools. They'll probably have to wipe that out, and that'll be another major expense. Those will probably be $2 million apiece, so they will be paying 25% to $4 million in something in that order. So in terms of the ability of this fire protection district to get any type of long-term settlement or anything, we're finally not going to get anything. So that will mean that future mill levy increases and their frequency will be increased and will the taxpayers of Elk Creek Fire Protection District, if it's still in existence, will have higher and more frequent mill levies, because the board has not taken any kind of action to go about and investigate this. So I find that to be a major issue that's going to appear in the consolidation effort of this attempt to get it consolidated, is the inaction of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board. And furthermore, I submitted on the first referral, I submitted the fact that this is going to be on a cul-de-sac, and you could have upwards of 700 to 1,000 people in a cul-de-sac, where the Fire Ember Alliance report says that you need to prepare for a burnover here. And they've also stated that there are non-survivable sections of the lower canyon of Shadow Mountain Drive that are on a major escape route. And Elk Creek Fire has responded saying they would follow all recommendations of the International Fire Code of whatever year or whatever version it is, and that they are not required to ask for a second entrance. And so Elk Creek Fire Protection District is perfectly happy with having a cul-de-sac while they're preparing for a burnover. So again, this is another case where Elk Creek does not appear to have common sense. So, I mean, you can build a theater with 1,000 seats and say, we've got a nice wide front door here, and gee, we don't need to prepare any side doors because, well, what could happen? So I feel that the general inaction of the board and the management of fire marshal or so forth in the response to the first referral that Elk Creek has submitted is insufficient, and that will be a good campaign issue as to further losing our sovereignty or our local control, and that's another big issue. So this is, in my opinion, is a witnessing of the beginning of the end of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District as we know it, and its consumption into something that's bigger and less, even less responsive to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Neil. Do you have something?
yes, I just wanted to comment. Am I to understand that you guys had your first meeting to begin to develop a strategic plan? So that would mean that you have been operating for years without maintaining and updating a strategic plan? And in the absence of working off a strategic plan, you have managed to create this report and the legal document tonight to consolidate, and yet you don't even have a plan for replacement of vehicles on a developed, written, black and white plan, a plan to improve equipment, a plan to improve the benefits and enticements to recruit and retain volunteers. That seems to me to be amazing, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly.
I think we do have a replacement model, do we not? I thought we had something in place there, and because you've incorporated a lot of different things. We are aware,
as we contemplate the reserves that we set aside, it's in contemplation of replacement of apparatus at the appropriate time.
Is it
Based on the
written on a
discussion.
document?
I have one that
There's
was
one right
done
there.
in 2011 that disappeared. And this engine you're talking about that's so old, it was supposed to have been replaced in 2012 on my plan that just vanished.
well, we have a replacement process in place, so there is that. And I know Chief Ware is working towards that. So that was one of your questions. Well, you had like 3 in there. Did we have a strategic plan? No, and that study even showed that we did not, which is the reason why Director Newby was adamant that we need to push forward, which our board incorporated, and we're working towards that very thing. So what was your third issue?
The third point was, in the absence of a strategic plan, you managed to develop this report and the legal document that appeared tonight that you ratified without any of the taxpayers ever being able to see it, or even one of the directors being able to have adequate time to read it and understand it legally?
I take exception to some of those.
Your
things,
answer
but-
is yes.
Yeah.
Without a strategic plan, you managed to develop this report, and you managed to move towards consolidation without addressing the basic needs of the district that you represent.
When did that whole process start? I think it was before any of us were on the board, but,
It was before I was on
It's Tom's fault.
all right, yes.
I've been coming to these meetings for quite a while, and I've studied this plan in detail. To me, it looks like this district is subsidizing, in the consolidation, will subsidize the other 2 districts. I don't know how much, but it's somewhere in that 16 mil, because all of a sudden, they become 24/7 operations. and their tax base is not going to be able to support that, in my understanding of what I've studied to this point. So I suspect we are subsidizing those two other districts in this consolidation. And if I'm incorrect, I'd like somebody to point that out.
So I will answer that, Joe. Thank you for your question. Actually, the other two districts tend to subsidize us because there are more calls that they answer that we can't keep because we're too busy. And so they actually provide mutual aid to us more than we provide mutual aid to them.
And that's identified economically somewhere so that it shows, yes, they're subsidizing us more
Well,
than
they're
we're
subsidizing our
them.
calls, so there is definitely an economic
Do you have a
component
report on
of that.
Do you have a report on the mutual aid from
I
one
do.
department to the other?
Actually, I do.
Chief, can you post that? Or give that out to the citizens so we can see that?
And what's the point of failure with that, that makes the consolidation so meaningful to the
What makes it
districts?
we're kind of jumping ahead here because we're now getting into the meetings that are going to help educate.
You're not going to allow the public to talk at those meetings. There's no
That's
question
not
and
true.
answer session.
That is not true.
You said that at the candidate forum, that they were going to be a front-sided meeting and it was not going to involve
Well,
citizen
then I was
Q&A.
misunderstood because that is not true. The public is going to be allowed in these meetings. They're going to be able to walk around, they're going to be able to ask questions and get answers. So I apologize if I said something that was misunderstood because it has always been the fact that the meetings will be public and the public will be allowed to walk around and ask any questions that they want.
And this is something.
So
this
what do
is
you
a
mean walk
conversation
around and
we'll
ask
have
questions?
during the open houses.
Is it going to be
But
that
in
same?
terms of citizens' issues, that topic in terms of consolidation and the information surrounding such will be addressed at that time. So I think we've covered consolidation because we will have an opportunity to have further in-depth conversations at the open houses.
So I would encourage everybody to go to those open houses. I mean, you all seem very interested in the consolidation and the benefits of it, and maybe you don't see any benefits in it, but that will actually help you understand why there are people in favor of it, and there will be people against it. When the surveys were done, over 70% of the people that did the surveys were in favor of consolidation.
So again, we've addressed the consolidation issues and we've addressed the fact that they will be allowed further conversation at these open houses. Let's stick to other issues. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I wanted to say I've lived on Shadow Mountain Drive for 40 years, and I came tonight because I wanted to share my concerns about the bike park, but I also need to tell you that when I moved here, we had our fire department was totally volunteers. Yep. And I will always have the utmost respect for you guys and for the women on the team, because you basically 35 years ago helped deliver my first child, and I just need to thank you. I just wanted to make sure that comes out, how I have great respect for our firefighters. But I did want to share my concerns about the bike park, and I'll be as brief as I can be. As you know, there are many, and based on all the people that are here, many in our community that oppose the bike park. And it's due to our safety concerns and the fact how the bike park will have an impact on our current emergency medical service. There is significant, we've had some debate, downhill mountain biking is very different than the trail riding we do at Myers and at Staunton. Significant downhill mountain bike injuries are common. They're so common, in fact, that is that famous, very well-documented study at Whistler Mountain Park. In a 5-month period, they reported 2,000 injuries with 900 riders. 12% of those injuries were life and or limb-threatening, including broken bones, concussions, internal bleeding, organ damage, and even people that were left quadriplegic or paraplegic. These rates further illustrate the egregious lack of medical attention the developers propose for that bike park. Bluntly, any injury besides basic needs demands a level of service that bike park cannot potentially provide. So when we're figuring out the overall impact of the proposed bike park that it'll have on our emergency service, I ask you to go beyond the number of crashes, and Neil started to address that, the number of crashes that are directly going to happen at that park. We have to include the potential of crashes at school bus stops, and we're going to have high school kids and students walking and riding their bikes up to the proposed park on an identified dangerous road, which is narrow, windy, and with multiple blind curves. The huge increase of traffic and concerns about evacuation, and especially in the case of fire. What's brought me out here tonight is we already have an average of 2,000 cars a day. If you've been on Shadow Mountain Drive, that's a tiny 4-mile road. 2,000 cars is significant. And what the bike park is proposing, they'll be adding an additional 1,000 cars and what will that do to our crash rate? Also, the stretch between the entrance on Shadow Mountain Drive and the bike park is only 30 miles per hour. And in a recent study, it was completed by Jefferson County Transportation in November of 2022, 98%, I mean, to me, that blew me away. 98% are going over the speed limit, and 13% are going over 50 miles per hour. For over 10 years, Shadow Mountain's history of crashes has been documented by the crash analysis studies. Again, Jefferson County completed those studies themselves. Shadow Mountain Drive continues to experience a relatively high number of crashes given its length. There have been 3 fatalities, and I've seen them all, from 2011 to 2020 on Shadow Mountain Drive. The proposed bike park is located 1.2 miles from the entrance of Shadow Mountain Drive, and all 3 of those fatalities have occurred within the first 2 miles of Shadow Mountain. This is why some feel that the approval of the bike park might show negligence if citizens are not protected. This is the reason that the motion tonight made by Chuck Newby must be considered, as it's a motion brought by the community and not just Chuck Newby. I thank you for your time, and I want to honor again the firefighters, and please ask that you complete a study of how emergency service will detrimentally be impacted by the proposal of this bike park. Thank you.
Thank you for those words.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. To say that the bike park isn't here yet, we're not know what we're dealing with and all that, it's kind of like saying, well, a heart attack is hypothetical until you have it, you know? But there's a lot that leads up to it in prevention. And the other thing is that the amount of downhill accidents that I've seen in reports, it doesn't matter whether it's at Whistler, in Wisconsin, Tennessee, or Colorado. Downhill biking, it's dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and iterating on them, I was just reading on the website and you're talking about why you want to consolidate. Because you've got limited resources. You've got less people volunteering. You're strapped with your resources. Yet you want to add hundreds of people a day to a bike park, and Elk Creek's response to that was basically nothing. So,
can I just clarify? I don't think anybody on this board has supported the bike park.
No, I'm talking about like the first referral, the letter, and I think even Neil mentioned that it was very, okay, well, we don't really have an issue, and it makes me think of, you know, slightly, it's a different scenario, but, you know, trying to put in the apartment complex where Elk Creek's response was, we do not have the equipment, we cannot defend this property. We don't have the equipment if fire happens. Elk Creek can't do it. I mean, yes, and I thank everybody because you've saved my husband's life and I've had a lot of ambulance trips. And when we're talking about the downhill, if you look on their website, or if you look up what the free send or full send means, it's not going through Stoughton or anything like that. This is extreme downhill biking, which is very dangerous, a lot of accidents. You take one ambulance to a trip to the hospital downtown, or St. Anthony's, Swedish, whatever it is, that ambulance is gone for at least 2 hours per trip. And you have 3 ambulances, you could have 3 accidents in that park in one day, and the rest of the citizens have no ambulance. So as far as the motion was simply, Elk Creek, do your own study to find out, same thing, they're not gonna pay any taxes, we pay the taxes. And to try and assess, to put, okay, you're gonna be responsible for this much, you gotta reimburse the, the Elk Creek or whatever it is. So it just, for that to get thrown away, and it seems like, we're the ones that live here, we're the ones that rely on you guys. But it doesn't sound like you listen to us. And this is very important. I've had to wait for an ambulance for a long time because they're somewhere else. So I understand why your idea of this consolidating is to help your resources financially. But your personnel is what's going to count the most. Not the money, it's the people that are going to be able to respond to adding several hundred people a day to an already taxed system. Thank you.
I think you gave a great argument why consolidation might be an important aspect in November, because of exactly that. And there's no better way to say consolidation. The intent behind it, as was provided in that study, is to increase the services of fire and EMS amongst the 400 square miles that we have that include North Fork, Elk Creek, and Intercanyon. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, do you think there's some incongruity between you having a study for consolidation ahead of time, but you don't have a study for this bike ranch ahead of time?
What I would say is that there are conversations that Chief Ware is having with that, but in terms of a study, we have had a director just a little bit ago have amendment for that. But there is a possibility of a study in the future, but we are in what phase of this right now?
But what phase are you in consolidation? You're not seeing the incongruity of it.
Yeah.
No, it's certainly conversation that could be had, and I think the conversations that have occurred would have similarity to an understanding of what is going to take place. And then those contingencies will be addressed by Chief Ware and the fire department. But thank you for that. You make a good point that there are similarities. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a bipolar aspect of what's going on tonight between the two motions. One of which is, oh, we can't look at that yet because that hasn't happened. There's no bike park yet, so why would we ever consider the impact of something that is truly an operational strain on this department? The other one is, we've done hundreds of pages of studies and we have this free living document that we're going to vote on in case in 6 months the voters might approve a consolidation.
Right.
How come we don't have the same seriousness about a bike park that puts true operational strain on this department? I really fail to understand what's going on here, because you people seem not concerned at all about the fact that there's going to be a bike park with a ton of accidents in it, but super hyped up about passing an agreement that, by your own words, is fluid, which is weird because I am a lawyer. Where are the words in that agreement that says this is just fluid, this is just a living document that may change? We're voting on words. We're not voting on something that says, don't take it that seriously, folks, this might change. That's not how you vote. You vote for a document. we should look at the words and take them seriously. And by the way, there is no expiration on that document, even if the voters don't approve consolidation.
That's right.
Again,
Just to
that's
add
not
what
the
she-
way I read it.
Yeah, well, that's the way I read it.
Yeah.
And
And
to
I've
add
been a
what she
practicing
said,
lawyer
It
for
says
30
here that
years.
this
What she
agreement may only be amended in writing as required by the parties in furtherance of proposals of this, or...
That's not an
That's
expiration.
not
There's
an
no-
No,
expiration.
no, and her first point.
Not an expiration.
And to add to what she just said, the bipolar topic, you just tabled a document or a motion that had an hour. This one had a few hours, less than 48. So why wouldn't that one have been tabled as well?
Yes, exactly.
Consolidation, that's right.
Right,
Yeah, that's right. What's the?
That is,
If we
every,
table it, it'll be after the election.
yes.
All right. Any other concerns from the, or from the citizens?
Thank you for
Yes.
listening to the citizens.
So I got a few things that came up in previous meetings. So I haven't seen an annual report since 2007. That'd be a cool thing. I don't know why or how a board can really have any strategy without an annual report. So I think that would be something you should ask your one employee to take care of. I think, another thing I think should always be on the agenda for the board is, there's a lot of chatter right now about our insurance costs are going through the roof if people can get insurance. Elk Creek has a 510 ISO rating. Intercanyon has a 4. They're going to lose their ISO and be in the same situation as Elk Creek taxpayers are in, that they're not going to get insurance, or their insurance costs are going to go way up because we're bringing their ISO rating to 5. They're not going to bring ours down to 4. I almost guarantee it. And I don't. When we were working on ISO when I was here all the time. That was one of our big focuses on getting our ISO to a point where we could even get insurance. So I think that should be on the agenda all the time, to talk about what are we doing about keeping our insurance rates at a level that we can afford to even live here. And you were talking about Robert's rules the other day and this chipper truck. So that chipper truck didn't go, there was no discussion on that chipper truck. It was like, bam, bam, you spent $150,000 in 2 seconds. And here's my issue with the whole chipper thing. You claim to have 410 properties now distributed over 2 districts that you're doing this service for. That's correct, right?
That's what was stated.
So I looked into having I've been clearing my land for 20 years, and I have to take all the slash I cut down, throw it in my trailer, take it to Jeffco, pay $20 to dump it. Because I don't have that little 45-minute window of whoever your buddies are that get on your little plan. Or I can call one of the 25 tree companies in between here and Evergreen and have them come and pick up my stuff, my branches, and they charge $800 to $1,200 for, to spend half a day at my house chipping and hauling stuff. So the few people that you actually chip for, there's still 8,000 houses that you don't in between the 2 districts. They're getting $800 worth of value after paying $400 in taxes. So, and you have their address, so I'm sure you got their vote, right? You bought those votes of those people.
That's not fair, Mike. That is not fair. We do not buy any votes.
There is a decidedly unfair competition to all these tree companies.
That's right.
I can address first off your first question. On our website are our 2021 audited financial statements on our website under financials. We don't have 2022 yet because they're not done with it, and they probably will be done with it May, June timeframe. I think, June timeframe. So they'll be posted. And the second thing is that we don't buy votes, okay? People vote for whomever they want to vote for, and they vote for whatever they want to vote for. We don't buy votes. We don't have buddies that sign up for the chipping program. It's a program that's open for everybody to apply. So
It's not open for everybody.
It
It's
is
open
open
for
for
the
everybody.
200 or so people in our district. That's it.
I'm sorry, it's open for what people?
For the 200 or so people you serve in our district. You close it after 45 minutes.
We closed it because we had a top, it's 410. And we closed it because we don't have the resources.
It's 410 in
the
2 districts.
People, we don't have the people to do that chipping. We do recommend people that want to have their stuff chipped, so we actually can recommend contractors that do that, but they will charge for it. The chipping program is free.
It's not free. It's not free.
Well, then I guess.
It's just not for everybody. You're not serving the entire community with it. You're only serving those few people.
We're serving the people that signed up for
And
it,
so,
yes.
and so the other thing is, the chief said at the last meeting that he made a deal with Jeffco about dropping chips and stuff off at Jeffco. Is that for me or in
It's for our
everybody?
slash program.
But
for
it's
our
not for
chipping
me.
program.
So I still have to pay my $20 per load. I spend about $200 a year dropping off branches from my house, and I only have about 3 acres.
I have less than that, I've spent that much too.
So nobody chipped yours for you?
Nope,
You
I
didn't
didn't
get on
sign, I
that
didn't
chipping
get signed up
program?
last year.
What's that?
I did not get signed up last
You
year.
did make a statement that you've had the chipping program come by
Twice.
twice. You
No,
stated that
I've had
earlier
the
this
chipping
evening.
program come by once,
Okay,
once, 2 years ago.
you did say twice. I think it's recorded, so you
Okay,
can
then
go back.
you can play the recording.
Well, I'm just trying to get facts.
Okay,
That's all.
and the second time is this year because I did get signed up this year. So they will.
So you're
by
one
this
of the
year.
400?
I'm one of the 410 because I sat at my computer and signed up, just like everybody else.
And what, was it
I had
like
no
6
idea.
o'clock in the morning? It was like, it's kind of like getting
It
tickets
opened at
for
9
Shania
o'clock.
Twain or
It opened-
something?
It opened at 9 o'clock.
No.
Thanks, Mike. Any other issues from the community?
Oh, I got one more thing. I got these. I got these for you guys. And this is just going to be a reference now, but this is the 2011 vehicle replacement program that we did. And I don't know what happened. Some of these vehicles are still on here, like the 431 that you're telling us is going to cost us an extra $500,000 because it wasn't purchased 3 years ago. I think that's just, this is a tiny piece of the strategic plan, but it's an important piece. It would have to be updated, obviously, because you bought 27,000 more vehicles since then. A lot of cars I see out, and a lot of pickup trucks and stuff, and a lot of non-fire vehicles, but that's at least an outline of what a vehicle replacement program should look like.
All right, thanks, Mike. We'll be sure that Chief Ware and Chief Aronson have received this document. Any other issues from the community? All right, hearing none, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Meeting is adjourned at 8:24.